an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment. Now come on now.
Welcome to another episode of Never Date Just One Sis. It is your host, Arthur China T, Coach Erica, and we are going to continue this journey to learn how to roster date or date correctly if it's the last thing that we do. We have went through a conglomerate of topics, but I wanted to back this one all the way up to right at the beginning when you decide that you're ready to start dating properly. You've done all your healing, and whether you're looking to build your roster or start dating properly with just one man, I want to back it all the way up into the first initial conversation. And that's something that y'all hear me tell y'all all the time. It needs to be no longer than 30 minutes. It needs to be asking questions to get him talking as opposed to him asking you questions for you to start revealing too much. Y'all know how I am. Y'all talk too much. But just to be able to see if this person, if you actually want to, allow this person to even go on a first date. Sometimes those first initial conversations reveal things to you that make you say, take a step back. This person may not even be worthy of a first date and definitely should not be added to your roster. Me personally, when I was dating, the first conversation is very important to me. That's when I can learn a lot about a man in terms of, and the things that I'm looking for is if he has children, what is his job and all of those things. If he has children, automatic turn off. I don't want any men that have children. I don't have children. People with no children have no business with people who have children. I'll never understand what it's like to be a parent. I'll never understand what it's like for other things that you have to go through as a parent. So that once I learned that in an initial conversation, I don't even want to move forward. In terms of people's jobs and things, if they're saying comments like, oh, they have to get the money, or if they had the money, or things like that, and they're not able to make what they should be making from their job, and they have kids, another total turn off. So these are the things that I learned and look for in the first initial conversations when I was dating, because that lets me know that I'm just not moving forward. I just don't have the time. So the initial conversation is the very first conversation after you meet a man, after you've determined that you want to exchange numbers with him. We don't need to be jumping right into going on a date, because you don't want to get on that date and feel like you wasted your time. You've heard some of these men on these videos, they tired of going on these dates and paying for these dates for them to get nowhere fast, pick up speed, and crash and burn. And that's because they expect the woman to like them. They think they're so exceptional after the first date. And when it doesn't go that way, now they feel some type of way because they're mad that they spent this money. Well, before we even get to determine if we actually want to go that way, the first initial conversation is going to teach us a lot to see if we even need to go that way with that man, okay? So if you have your copy of Never Date Just One, I am all the way in Chapter 9, First Date Etiquette. In Chapter 9, you're going to come across the first date tracker. And you're going to see before we get to the first date, we have the initial information for how you met, how long was the conversation, and things of that nature. This is the conversation for you to get everything that you need to get out prior to you going on that first date. After meeting a man, if he's right to exchange numbers, and that's only if he's right, your initial conversation is your first focus. Do not over-text or invite him to your social media. These are not avenues for you to learn his character and if it aligns with your goals. If you do text him, that's okay? Make sure that you are scheduling the time to call him, but don't elongate that conversation out of boredom or curiosity. So here's an example of a text message. Hey, it's Sherry. We met earlier at the store. I wanted to know if you're available to talk tonight around 8 o'clock. Okay, or whenever your schedule is free. This doesn't make you seem desperate or lonely. It's just giving him a time. If he replies yes, then it's set. Your first initial conversations will be that night at whatever time you plan. If there is no reply, there could be many reasons for that. Simply delete that text thread and keep on pushing. You're not just sitting around waiting for that text, okay? He's not your only option, even if he is. If he's slow to reply, then make a note of that on your roster, and there is a place for that. There is a solid approach to the first conversation that keeps you in control while maintaining an air of mystery and confidence about yourself. So let's break this down. These are the things that we will do in your first conversation. You're going to keep the conversation fun and light. First conversation will feel like a breath of fresh air, not an interrogation and not an emotional dump on you, from him, and from him to you. None of that, okay? Stick to the engaging topics like food, travels, and activities that excite you. You also want to discuss your likes. When you're discussing your likes, casually mention those date ideas to give him a roadmap to directly see what he wants to plan. It puts the responsibility on him to listen, take initiative, and be creative. Here's an example. Instead of saying something like, I want a man to take me on a picnic because I've never been, you should say things like, I love being outdoors. Something about a picnic and some good food and fresh air feels so peaceful. Idea. Or if you like to go to the gym, say things like, I'm really into fitness. I think a workout day could actually be fun. Something like hiking or a gym session. Again, it puts the ball in his court. By doing this, you're planting the seed without making demands. If he's truly interested in you, he'll pick up on those cues and he'll plan accordingly. And then you'll know. If he doesn't, that tells you about how attentive he wasn't and how thoughtful he is not from the beginning before you even get into any type of relationship and be throwing that in his face. In the first conversation, also ask him the right questions. Instead of letting him fire off endless questions about you, take the lead and ask a question that make him think and reveal his true character. Questions such as, what's something you did recently that was fun? That's going to make him think. Or, are you looking for a wife or are you ready to be a husband? When you ask that question, are you looking for a wife or are you ready to be a husband? It is a purpose for that. The man who is ready to be a husband is ready to serve his wife in all facets, make her life a lot more comfortable and a lot more easier. The man who was looking for a wife is looking for somebody to serve him, to make his life more comfortable and his life easier. While it's supposed to go hand in hand, you see where I'm going with this? If he's looking for a wife, that means that he's looking for the person who is a traditional housewife who's going to take up the majority of the household rules and to-dos in the house, the kids, the cleaning, and all of those things, okay? So if you would like to be in that traditional housewife role, then that will be the answer you're looking for. If you're looking for the man to say he's ready to be your husband, and this is a man that's willing to help you with those household duties and those children and everything else that comes with being a husband. Some men don't want to be husbands. They just literally want wives to serve them. You have to determine what is the best suit for you and if you should be moving forward. You want to set the tone with boundaries. If sex comes up, gracefully shut it down with a statement like, I only discuss that with men who have earned access to my heart, and that's not up for grabs for every man. That keeps the conversation classy and lets him know you're not easily won over. Okay, ladies? So don't be like, oh, he talked about sex too soon. Men are visual. They're always going to bring it up. Just know how to bring them back. Also, encourage him to keep his options open. Let him know that you're dating others, and he should too keep the same energy, casual and pressure-free. It also signals that you're high value and you're not waiting around for him to decide if you are his one. You want to make sure that you end that conversation at the 30-minute mark. Always leave them wanting more. Let him know you have things to do. Reinforce that you have a full life and you aren't sitting by the phone waiting for his attention. I know some of y'all cannot wait to get on those phone calls and they just go over 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. You think that he's divulged all these things to you. You think that he likes you. No, it is a tactic that every man will use because what did I tell you about those phones and texts? There are ways for them to build emotional paths to you. They know that women emote through things such as long phone conversations and long text conversations. And then you start revealing too much about yourself and your past, things for him to possibly use against you if he's that type of man. To prevent any of that from happening, simply make sure that you get off that phone no more than 35 minutes, okay? Get in what you need to get in. If it leads to you being asked on a date at the end of that call, or maybe a text message come through and asks you on a date, then you've done what you needed to do. If you have determined that you would like to go on a date with him. If that phone conversation doesn't lead to plans being made, you have one more conversation in you before you completely remove this person out of the way of being added to your roster. We're not going to do 3 years of phone conversations before the man finds value into taking us on a date. Make sure you encourage him to be creative. Okay, I know a lot of y'all think that first dates have to be dinner dates. That is not the only option for first dates. Okay, we will get into that next week on our Never Date Just One Sis episode. We'll talk about all the options for first dates. But dinner dates are not the only options, okay? They're rather boring. They put a lot of pressure on men because now he has to determine where he needs to take you that's going to be suitable for you. A lot of y'all standards are too high because y'all thinking y'all supposed to get these 5-star restaurants from the beginning, listening to all the wrong things on TikTok and all the wrong dating coaches. A first date is a first date. It could be a multitude of things, okay? You want to always go towards a date that don't cost a lot of money because you don't want that man to expect you to give him something afterwards. That's a transaction, okay? A man spends a lot of money, he expects to receive something in return. You can't get mad at that. Again, first dates at 5-star restaurants that require big bills are transactional. That is why a lot of women go home with these men after these dates because they feel so compelled to once those big bills come and they figure, hey, he got it, he finna pay it, and he pays it. Now she gets all wet in between her legs and she thinks it's time to go to the bed. Or she's allowed him to convince her, well, let's go to my place afterwards and have a drink. And then it ends that way. Just remember that. Every first date does not have to be a dinner date. So stay tuned for next week when I break down other options for first dates that'll be a little more aligned with him getting to know you, you getting to know him, having the conversations that you need to have so that you can move further along on this journey to even get to better dates and let him surprise you. We've talked about the do's. Let's talk about those don'ts. Don't suggest he take you out. That is his role. If he's interested, he'll take the initiative. If he doesn't, that's a sign that he may not be the type of man who pursues with attention. You should not be suggesting that y'all go somewhere. Stop it. Don't let him ask you too many questions. While it's natural for him to be curious, if he's just rattling off questions, flip the script and guide the conversation with intriguing questions of your own. A lot of those questions are just trying to see exactly what type of woman you are and try to use what they can against you if he's that type of man. Ladies, don't bring up past women. Don't ask him about them at all. The women before you don't matter. And asking about them puts you in a position of comparison because now it seems like you're trying to compare you to who he had. His history will reveal itself naturally over time. Let him bring that to you. Don't ask him about that. Don't ask if he's single. I know a lot of y'all like, what do you mean? Yeah, a relationship status will become evident throughout the conversation and his actions. Asking directly can make you seem too eager for clarity. We're just doing a first phone conversation. We're not there yet to be asking about anybody's relationship status. And the last don't is very important. Don't chase or over communicate. No over texting, no over talking. If the first combo doesn't end with him asking you out, that's okay. You have one more conversation in you before you do not initiate it anymore. You want to make sure that you give it a week before speaking to him again. And if he's interested, he'll step up. This approach ensures that you remain in your feminine energy, you keep the interactions intriguing, and you avoid the common pitfalls that put women in the chasing position. The goal is to be desired, sis, not to audition for his affection. So whatever you were doing prior to, we're not doing that anymore. Right now, we're going to come in from a feminine standpoint. We're going to be the woman who is going to be chased. We're not going to do any chasing. We're not going to do it over texting, over talking. We're not going to do any of those things. We're not going to get offended if he brings up sex because we know how to divert that back so that it's not brought up again. Okay. Make sure that you know what questions that you want to ask that's going to help you reveal his character. When I talk about the places for alternate first dates next week, I also talk about some of the questions that you may want to ask either on the first date or in the initial conversation. But again, remember, this initial conversation is just there for you to determine if you even want to get to the first date, even if he asks you. And once you get asked on that first date, then you go from there, okay? We're not suggesting that, hey, all right, I got to go. How about we just meet up later on for coffee? We're not doing that. That's not what you do because there you go, get it into a chasing stance and it's too masculine. If he determines that you're worth the first date, he will ask you. If he doesn't ask you, you have one more conversation in you about a week or so after that conversation, and then you can go from there. But we are not going to be overdoing anything because we have stopped doing that. That is what men do. That is too masculine. It's time for you to stay in your places and be able to be chased by those who want to chase you and not to be running after you or trying to get all of your time. Because I know a lot of men, when they hear chase, they just go to a negative standpoint. No. The man who has great intentions for you will do what he needs to do to get your attention. The man who doesn't will get up out of there. And we always do this to him and never to spin a block again. Make sure that we're staying in our feminine energy, and we're letting the attraction come to us instead of going out chasing it. Wednesday, we'll be talking about what men seek. It is a conversation that a lot of men don't get into. It is also a conversation that you do not hear a lot of on the internet, because what you have is women thinking they know what men seek. But this is, in actuality, what men are looking for when they're going out on dates, and they're looking for the next woman to be in their life for the long run or for the time being. Which one are you, sis? His temporary or his long term? I will see you Wednesday at 7 p.m.